Hello and welcome to Matchday Live on a huge day here at King Power Stadium. Without further ado, let's get all of today's team news with our commentator, Niall McCorn.
Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. In around 3 hours' time, we'll find out just how this season ends for Leicester City. It's a day where history will be made one way or another, and it's a day in which the Foxes simply have to win. Eyes will be on Everton. There will be looks at Leeds. Victory today against West Ham, though, and defeat for the Toffees against Bournemouth will mean top-flight survival. A draw at Goodison Park might even be enough to secure safety, but that only matters if, here at King Power Stadium, City take care of their own business. The goalless draw on Monday at Newcastle has given the Foxes a fighting chance going into the final day. Dean Smith had a game plan and it provided a point. A three at the back system at St James's, but City go back to a back four this afternoon against West Ham. Souttar drops to the bench as the only defensive change from 6 days ago. Johnny Evans is fit and starts today after coming off on Tyneside. The omission of Barnes and Maddison raised a few eyebrows in the northeast last week, but both start today either side of Kelechi Iheanacho, who's preferred up front to Jamie Vardy, whilst it's a first start in 3 weeks for Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. Of Leicester's 8 wins in the Premier League this season, he's started 7 of them. So here's your Leicester side in full. Everson in goal, Castagna, Evans, Fass and Thomas at the back. A midfield three of Tielemans, Soumare and the returning Dewsbury Hall, whilst Barnes and Maddison are back in with Iheanacho through the centre. Vardy's on the bench, so is Souttar, and Didi hasn't trained this week and doesn't make it. The other substitutes are Daka, Ricardo, Mendy, Pratt, Tete, Amate and Smithies. For West Ham, they did Leicester a favour last week, dispatching Leeds United 3-1, but it's no secret their focus is the Europa Conference League final, a competition Leicester reached the semi-finals of last season. But that final is 10 days away, and so enough time, you'd argue, to recover before the trip to Prague to face Fiorentina. As such, it's still more than a capable side selected by David Moyes, albeit a number of alterations from last week's win over Leeds. Half of those changes come at the back. Cresswell, Kehrer and Aguerd are all back in the side. Tomas Soucek drops out. So too, skipper Declan Rice is partnered by Flynn Downs in the middle of the park, whilst Ben Rama will operate from the left, supporting Michail Antonio in the middle. So after 37 games in 10 months, here we are, the final day of the 22-23 season. It will be one to remember, regardless of what happens. Let's hope by full time we're remembering it for all the right reasons.
Thank you very much, Niall. Yes, welcome along to Matchday Live on what could be a pivotal and massive day for this football club. Tony Cottee and Jerry Taggart join me, Dan Bates, to, well, I was going to say try and take our minds off it, but we've literally got to talk about it for an hour. It's been a tough old week, Jerry, hasn't it? It's certainly not flown by since the Newcastle game on Monday.
Yeah, obviously a massive day in the club's history today. Not in our hands, you know, so we're hoping and praying all over the place. So that's probably what's prolonged the agony of today, you know, knowing that, you know, the footballing gods have to shine down on Leicester City today for us to, you know, to get out of this mess. But, you know, Leicester can only do what they can do. They can only take care of what happens today on the pitch. And then, as I said, the rest is up to the footballing gods.
How are you feeling, Tony?
I'm nervous, Dan. I'm nervous. I think everyone is. You know, everyone who's coming to this ground is going to be nervous. The players should be nervous as well. But I think you've got to channel that energy into the right way and go out and put a performance in. It's one of those games, and it happens every now and again where you know. Niall's just said 37 games, and it's down to one game, isn't it? It is one game, and you can only do what you can do. You can't go out there worrying about Goodison or Ellen Road. You go out there and just focus on winning the game. Win the game, and then if that's not good enough, then you put your hands up. But if you don't win the game, everything else is irrelevant.
Absolutely. Obviously, we know the permutations, don't we? If Everton draw, a victory is good enough. Everton lose, obviously, a victory good enough today for the Foxes. Let's take a look at what we've got coming up here on Matchday Live this afternoon. The three of us will talk about that team news very shortly. Obviously, it's a change to a back four. We'll look back on that Newcastle game just under a week ago. What could have been all 3 points at the end there from that Castagna chance. It was a point which could be a vital point come the end of today. We'll hear from Johnny Evans, the club captain, who speaks ahead of this huge game this afternoon. And a certain Tony Cottee features as our classic strike against West Ham. A very young-looking Tony Cottee.
Oh, beautiful, Tony.
Be nice memories. Was it? I mean, did you score against West Ham a few times in your career?
I did, Dan. Yeah. People always ask the question. Everyone knows West Ham's my team, but what's it like to score against your team? And I'm doing my job. It didn't matter whether I played for Leicester, Everton, or West Ham playing against Leicester. It didn't matter. You, as a goal scorer, you're getting paid. Go and score your goals and celebrate. I didn't celebrate there, did I? So normally you celebrate. I wasn't celebrating there, but no, I think it's always nice to score against your old teams.
Did you get a bit of abuse when you left West Ham?
When I went to Everton, Tags, yeah, it didn't help because the season after West Ham got relegated, and of course then it's my fault that West Ham got relegated,
right.
you know. But I think over the years the fans, they sort of forgive you a little bit, and of course they forgave me so much that I went back for a second spell, so it couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah.
What team news, Jerry? Obviously, it was a back three when you were at Newcastle just under a week ago. It's a back four again now, as we can see there. Barnes and Maddison back in either side. You think of Iheanacho?
Well, you can see exactly what Dean Smith is trying to do. He has to go out and win the game. You asked me the question the other night, and I said they should have probably stuck with the back three, go with the two up top with Vardy and Iheanacho. Iheanacho obviously has had he played the first half, came off.
You could tell he struggled.
Didn't look that fit, but obviously he's got those 45 minutes under his belt, a week's training. You're expecting him to be a hell of a lot fitter than he was last week. Could he have probably started that way and then changed because clean sheets are massive at this stage of the season, and obviously that was Leicester's first clean sheet in 22 games, I think it was, against Newcastle. And okay, there was a lot of luck involved, but that in itself, because that secured the point, that clean sheet.
Yeah.
And for me, the longer the game goes on and you're keeping a clean sheet, where Leicester are in the league, I think that gives them a really good chance of going on and winning the game today. But Dean Smith sees it differently. Who am I to argue with that?
Thing is, with a few of the fans before the game are moaning about Leicester should have won or whatever, but I think it was an important point, Dan.
Yeah.
Really, really important. And the reason for that is quite simple. It now means that if Leicester win today, it's a big if, we know that. If Leicester win, Everton have to win. Yeah. If Leicester don't get the point at Newcastle, Everton could draw the game today, and then it makes it irrelevant. So I think it was a really big point. Yeah, of course they rode their luck a little bit, but good point, and some positives. And towards the end of the game, they could have nicked it. But they've got to go for it today, Tags.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I understand that. But there's a lot of strategy within a game, within one game, in the modern era where managers where they do change formations. You look at West Ham's bench; they've got some quality on the bench, as well as Leicester with Vardy not playing today, Daka on the bench, and so managers will have variations on different formations throughout the game, depending on where they are. I think just because of what I've said, one clean sheet in 22 games, playing a back four predominantly, I think if you get a good solid basis in the game, and then, okay, say it's 0-0, to 45, 55 minutes, and then change it to attacking, like they did the other night against Newcastle, where they changed it and almost nicked it at the end.
A lot of managers break it down into 15-minute sections.
Exactly.
Dan, that's the first 15. I'm sure Dean will be saying to players, don't concede a stupid early goal, obviously. But at some stage, as the game progresses, you get into the second half. They've got to push on. They've got to score. We know they've got to score to win the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's what Tags is touching on. Just different sections of the match, and break it down for the players and try and make it a little bit easier, because it's one of those days. It's a simple thing, isn't it? Break it down into sections. Go out and win the game.
Yeah, as we've established, Leicester kept a clean sheet at St James's Park on Monday evening in what could prove to be a pivotal point come the end of the season.
7 years ago, Leicester City were lifting the Premier League title, whilst Newcastle United were relegated to the Championship. 7 years on, and it's the Magpies in English football's upper reaches, whilst the Foxes are faltering and at real risk of dropping out of the top flight. Down the right-hand side it comes now for Newcastle. Almiron trying to get beyond Thomas. He does so. He's into the boxes. It's Miguel Almiron who lets fly with that left boot, which has been so effective this season for Newcastle United. And a little smile from the South American. Everson there let off the hook as it's played in towards the penalty area. Volleyed down, and again it's hit the post. And on the rebound it's over the top by Isak. Well, my word, Leicester City are really riding their luck now. Almiron with the effort. It strikes the post, and as it came out to Isak, he couldn't keep it under the crossbar. And Trippier is with him. Clipped in towards Guimaraes. Almiron inside the penalty area. Low ball across for Isak, and an excellent save from Daniel Everson. a firm right palm, and it's over the top and behind into the Gallagher end. A really important save from Leicester's goalkeeper. Between these two sides, we're yet to see one tonight as it's flicked towards goal, and the back post is cleared away by Leicester City. And again, a sigh of relief from the Foxes. Scoring here is not easy. Scoring against Newcastle is not easy in the Premier League as Trippier plays it in towards Longstaff. Massive save from Everson with his feet. It was played through the legs of a defender by Trippier. Longstaff had made the forward run from midfield, and he drilled a low shot towards Everson, who did what he had to do. Back to Sumare, and maybe should they have just whipped the ball in? This might still work though for Leicester City. In by Maddison. It's all the way through. What a save by Pope! Oh my word, that could have been so different for Leicester. But Nick Pope, as he has done all season, has come up with a huge save for his team.
Well, obviously Leicester rode their luck, didn't they, on Monday? Maybe they'll have to do the same again today. They so nearly nicked it at the end there.
They did, yeah. I mean, it was an excellent chance. I suppose you could argue you'd rather it have fell to sort of one of your midfields or your forwards. But, you know, when
he's done well, to be fair.
Of course he has done, yeah, I know. But you just felt as the game was progressing, Leicester came into the game, obviously, the last 10, 15 minutes, and you always feel that any team at any given time is going to get that one chance. And you know, he's just got to scuff it. To come off his shin and go in the corner, you know, it's too good a contact. It's straight. It's a good save from Pope. It's a good height and everything. But if you just scuff it into the corner, it goes in. And I mean, what a difference that would have made to everyone, wouldn't it?
I think, you know, when you look at that chance, Dan, where it comes from, and Tony's probably, well, and not probably, definitely better versed than me trying to explain it. But
probably.
Definitely. He's made a forward run as the ball's being delivered from James Maddison. He's made that forward run and then had to stop and check slightly.
Yeah.
And then, so his leg isn't behind him, but because he's had to check with that momentum and then hit it, that's where you need.
And he side-footed it as well. He perhaps should have dropped his shoulder, just gone for the full-blooded volley, just tuck it in the corner.
That's where you need your striker or your goal-scoring midfielder on there. But it's a good honest strike from Castagna. Like he says, he's probably hit it too clean.
That's what comes naturally for a, you know, if it had been Vardy, Iheanacho or even Daka, you would have thought that they would have dropped the shoulder, full-blooded volley into the bottom corner. He's done the right thing. He's trying to guide it towards the goal, but he's straight at the goalkeeper, unfortunately.
Yeah, and what a difference that could have made. And obviously today would have been in Leicester's hands. It isn't. We know that.
Yeah.
You've both been involved in these final day dramas, haven't you, where results are dependent elsewhere as well. How difficult is it? And do you want to know what's going on in the other games? Or does the crowd tell you, basically?
Mine was a bit different, Dan, because we're going back to 1994, a long time ago. Not everyone had a mobile phone, and they've still taken the old transistor radios in and all that. So you were sort of aware of it, but not fully aware of it. And the scenario was simple for when I was at Everton, home to Wimbledon, and have to win the game. But there was 5 teams involved in the relegation scrap. It was a very famous last day. Like I say, home to Wimbledon, go 2 goals down as well in a game you've got to win. And you know, but fortunately got the result. But it's horrible because you can see the league table there. It's not, if you're in that 17th position, your destiny's in your own hands. Leicester have got to go out, but with the modern day communications and mobiles, etc., everyone's going to know what's going on at every game today, and that could make a big difference. If Leicester can get an early goal, that will soon go around Goodison, and that will scare everyone at Goodison Park.
Yeah, I was involved in the last day when I was at Bolton, and it's funny, Everton are one of only a few teams that have never been relegated from the top league, and it was Everton again.
They have, Tags.
Oh, they have it?
They have, yeah. They've been relegated twice, but they've not been relegated since 1951 was the last time. 70 odd years.
70 odd years,
yeah.
That'll do. Thanks for that correction.
Well, hopefully that run ends today.
Only Arsenal were the only team to never get relegated.
Yeah, so anyway, and when I was at Bolton, and went down to we were away at Chelsea, which was, I mean, a ridiculous. We had to get a result. We didn't. Everton ended up drawn 1-1, and we ended up going down on goal difference. Both teams on 40 points. So to say it was agonising was, you know, to say the least. But it's just one of those things that happens in football. And on that day, like you say, me personally, I didn't want to know what was going on. We were just trying.
You don't want to know.
I didn't want to know, because all your focus also is going to Stamford Bridge and trying to get a result against a very, very strong Chelsea team. which unfortunately didn't happen.
You said obviously if there's an early goal here for Leicester, that might reverberate around Goodison Park.
Yeah.
I guess on the contrary, if there's an early goal for Bournemouth here, the crowd will sense it and be right up and hopefully translate that into the players.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those days, Dan, and I think we've seen it quite a few times in the Premier League. Me and Tags have both been involved in it, and that last day drama, it's why quite simply it is the best league in the world, because if you have other leagues around the world, you get a team like Bournemouth, safe, mid-table, nothing to play for, go up to Goodison and roll over 5-0 or something like that. Not intentionally, but just where their already minds are on the beach and that. You don't get that in the Premier League. Bournemouth will go there and give a really good account of themselves. And, you're quite right. If Bournemouth were to score on that, you can imagine at KP, then the fans start cheering, everyone's cheering, and the players will pick up on that. They'll know something fantastic's happened, but then you've then got to keep your focus as well, because as Tags quite rightly said, you can't be worrying about the other games. You've got to be disciplined, focused, go out and win the game, and forget everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, on the flip side of that, Dan, is if you are winning here and the crowd start cheering because they're losing, the players get anxious.
Yeah.
Because they're that close to crossing that line.
Yeah.
And then they become anxious and start going on the back foot. The opposition then start piling on the pressure, and then disaster could happen. That's why, me personally, better off not knowing. Just get on with it. Try and get over the line, and hope and pray for the best.
In that other game, it's a matter of millions of pounds for Bournemouth where they finish in the league. Obviously, each position you get more money, don't you? So.
Yeah.
They'll be wanting, obviously, to go there and win, exactly as you've been saying.
And player bonuses as well. I'm pretty certain it's linked to your league position, and that could be worth thousands of pounds to the players. I know they get well paid nowadays. Is it as relevant as in our day? In our day, it made a massive difference to us. But I think, with modern day players, perhaps it doesn't quite count so much. But you've got your pride as well, and also you're playing for your place for next year. You're showing, if you're a Bournemouth player, you want to show Gary O'Neill exactly, like, I want to be in that team for next season. So they're not going to go there and roll over and get stuff 4-0. They will give a good account of themselves, but just with Leicester's destiny not being in their own hands, we can talk about events at Goodison, Ellen. It doesn't matter. Just win this game here, and then just let everything take care of itself.
Because that really would be a sickener, wouldn't it, if Leicester don't get the 3 points today and Everton slip up.
And that's why all the talk is around take care of business here.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that, because you can't affect that. The only thing we can affect as players and as a management team is what goes on that pitch. The chance is gone for you to forgo your own destiny. It's gone.
Yeah.
So all you can do is make sure you win. And if that is it for this season, then at least you're sending the fans home with a win, which I haven't seen here for a while, to be honest.
Well, let's go from one Northern Irish voice to another then. This week at Seagrave, I sat down with Captain Johnny Evans to preview this huge game this afternoon. Johnny, obviously it's a huge game for the football club on Sunday. What's it been like at the training ground this week and the last couple of weeks, obviously, towards the end of the season?
Yeah, we're just trying to, come up with a, game plan. We'll have a game plan going into the game against West Ham the weekend, and making sure that everyone understands that, and making sure we're prepared. And I'm sure there'll be lots of different scenarios that can pop up throughout the 90 minutes. So we've got to be well prepared and know how we're going to approach the match as we're in it and as it's going on.
It's an interesting point that you make about that. Are you in the school of wanting to know what's going on in the other game or the other games that are important?
Well, we need to win, and I suppose that it can take that away from us. But if we are in a winning position, we need to know. You'll want to know what's going on, and I think it's important to have that information, because it can obviously it can change obviously what's how you approach the match, and if you want to kill the game or you want to speed it up and play in their half. There's so many different things that go on within the game. Sometimes it's not always you can see from the sidelines, but when you're down there and obviously managers giving instructions, it's important to know.
You mentioned that Newcastle game there, that could potentially prove to be a pivotal point. How good did it feel at the time, and particularly keeping a clean sheet was obviously so important? Yeah,
you're pleased with the application and the way we went about it. And we sat a bit deeper and we allowed Newcastle to come on these on the edge of our box, and you know, they had 1 or 2 chances to hit the post, and you sort of think, you hope you want to ride your luck and try and get the goal at the end of the game, which we nearly did. So it was a pleasing aspect about that, and also a bit of disappointment in the fact that, you know, in the last couple of, you know, when we wanted to push for the goal, we couldn't get it. But not disappointment in a way that, you know, maybe a bit more. You feel a bit gutted inside that you haven't got that goal that can keep everything in your hands going into the final game.
Obviously, a win is imperative on Sunday. That's exactly what you got against West Ham earlier in the season at the London Stadium. A terrific away performance. How much confidence can you take from that win?
Well, it's a long time ago now. I think that was just before the World Cup break. But West Ham are in good form at the moment. You know, they've got themselves into the final. But we've got to concentrate on what we're doing. We know they're still a good team, some very good players, and you know, David Moyes, knowing David Moyes myself, he'll have them, you know, well fired up, well drilled, and he's a winner. He'll want to win every game, so we know it's going to be difficult. I think they've had a couple of good results at the King Power in the last couple of seasons, so we can take something from that. And we know that they hit us on the break quite a bit, so we have to be secure behind the ball when we are going forward and making sure that we limit them.
Just finally, really more of a message, if you like, for the supporters. Obviously, the players care deeply about Sunday and about the fate of what happens on Sunday. So how important is it that the supporters are there for you, if you like, on Sunday?
I think I've no doubt about the supporters will be, and supporters will always support their football club, you know, no matter what happens. And I think as players, we all know that, and you know, we've got a duty ourselves to perform. And hopefully, like I say, that last game, the fans could see that the application from the players that we were putting in, and the desire to get something from that game. The fans travelled the whole way up to Newcastle to support us Monday night. Tough journey for them to come up and support us up there, but they always do, and they always give us their support. And no matter the result, you see it when you're walking in the stadium after games. We've lost a lot of games this season, you know, especially at home. There's always fans there clapping us and showing that the faith they have in us and giving their support behind us. So it's been really appreciated.
That was Johnny Evans there speaking ahead of this game this afternoon with West Ham here at King Power Stadium. A huge game for the Foxes. Johnny Evans, despite coming off on Monday in that game at Newcastle, is in the starting 11 today. It's a change to a back four, is what Dean Smith has decided. But regardless of back threes, back fours, Jerry, having Johnny Evans in there is key. Yeah,
he's been a massive miss, hasn't he, for the majority? Well, he hasn't played for the majority of the season, so he's been a massive miss. So again, a key player back in the side today. His leadership qualities there for all to see. And obviously, you know, if anyone can, you know, keep a rein on the rest of that back four, and obviously help the young keeper out as well, Everson, then it's going to be him.
It's massive that he's there, isn't it? And just to be a leader as well on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having Johnny fit gives you the option to play that back four, because, like, you know, Leicester have experimented at times with the back four. It hasn't quite worked and that, but I think when you've got him in that team, you know, he brings the experience, the quality. And he's been missed, and we just said it. He missed him so badly this year, but it's great to have him back in the team. And you play the back four, you then get the chance. Samaria be the holding midfield player. Then you've got your four midfielders, bombing forward to support Iheanacho. It gives you more attacking options. You can only do that really if you've got that back four. So you know it's great for Leicester that he's back.
And that's another key area of the pitch that Tony's just mentioned, that holding midfield role, and as well as Tielemans and Dewsbury Hall. Because he will coach in front of him, he will manage the players directly in front of him, making sure that they're in the right areas of the pitch when Leicester don't have the ball. And I think that's obviously been an issue for Leicester when Johnny Evans hasn't been in the team. The communication and those coaching skills that players bring onto the pitch. You know, it's a big part of the game, even in today's game. Probably, you know, it was used a lot more when we played. You know, the communication between players, the players in front of you, the keeper behind you if you're a centre half. It's a massive part of the game, and I think that has been not the only reason, but you know, a part of the reason why results that we expected to see this season haven't gone the way that they should.
He's a leader, Tags, and he's that type of player. I mean, you know, I think without harping back to the good old days of the 90s and that, but we had leaders in our dressing room. Everyone was a powerful character in that. You don't get that so much nowadays. You need someone like Johnny Evans in that dressing room to lead by example and to tell players what to do.
And the options then obviously there, if Leicester do go ahead, to maybe switch to a back three, should he want to.
Yeah, Harry Suter, who came in the other night, and he done well. Harry Suter, to say, hasn't been in the starting team for a while. I thought he looks solid, and he looks solid in that back three. So yeah, there's options. I think today Dean's doing the reverse of what he did on Monday night. He's going out to try and win the game from the start.
Yeah.
And then obviously from the bench, he's got options to shore things up, change the formation if he has to make sure that if Leicester do get the lead, he can shore things up at the back later on.
Well, let's hear from the man himself then, the man who's made these decisions this afternoon that can hopefully keep Leicester in the Premier League. Dean Smith was reflecting on that draw at Newcastle as well as looking ahead to this game.
I think my biggest problem was that, it looked like we were playing for the draw. We certainly didn't go to play for the draw. We played to keep it tight and stay in the game for 60 minutes, which we haven't been doing over the last couple of games. But we never retained the ball well enough when we regained it, and that was probably my biggest problem with the system, our ball retention. But we had to play a certain way against Newcastle, and what we did was restricted Newcastle until probably the last 5 minutes of the first half, where they've had a couple of chances from set pieces and hit the post twice. But people have said we were lucky in that game. I would also flip it and say they were lucky, because they certainly should have had a man sent off and been down to 10 men.
You said you had to play a certain way against Newcastle. How do you have to play against West Ham?
Well, we've got to win the game, plain and simply. We've got to figure out and balance the best way to not give big chances away and create big chances against West Ham, who were in a European final, and after a tough first half of the season have climbed away from danger and have got a very good manager there.
Just finally from me, Dean, I think we spoke about it in your first press conference here, last game of the season being West Ham. Obviously it was your last game at Villa as well when you kept them up. Just wondering how your feelings were that week at Aston Villa building up to that game, and how does this week compare?
Yeah, pretty similar really. I mean, probably the only difference last time there was no supporters there. I think we only needed a point as well, and it was in our own hands. So if other results went our way, this one's a lot simpler, because we just have to go and win the game, and we don't even have to look at the Everton results until after the game. We've got to do our job and then see where it takes us.
It's kind of all or nothing. So in that respect, do you throw all caution to the wind and just tell your team to go out there from the first minute and try and win the game?
I think any game you go into from the first minute, you're trying to win the game, but you've got to get that balance right, and I think that's always the key thing. Make sure you're not too open, but we've got to go and score a goal, because without scoring a goal, we don't win the game. So we know that we've got to go and create opportunities, but we're mindful that the threat that West Ham have, and both sides of the game we'll have to be good at.
Can you talk about the fans and the kind of impact that they can have on the game? We always talk about being behind closed doors. Last time this happened with Villa and West Ham, what difference can they make at the King Power on Sunday?
A massive difference, because we're at home. We've seen the difference that they've made in our first two home games against Wolves and then Everton, and against Liverpool, until they scored two quick fire goals, which makes it really tough when you're 2 goals down. But they can have a massive impact in how we play and what we do, and having home advantage is a massive impact. So, I fully expect our supporters to be behind us, and our players, playing to have them off the feet.
That was Dean Smith speaking to the press ahead of the game. As you can see, just on the side of the screen there, the starting 11 for the Foxes sees a change to a back four. Sumare, Dewsbury Hall and Tielemans in that midfield role, with Barnes and Madison supporting Kelechi Iheanacho. Dean Smith's been there before, Jerry,
yeah.
and he's done it on the final day. Okay, yeah. It was a lot different, as he was explaining. They only needed to draw, Leicester need to win, hope something else happens. So that experience might be key.
Yeah, obviously. As far as the emotions are concerned, because it doesn't matter whether you need a draw or win or whatever. If you're down there, you're down there. So the emotions, he'll be experienced in regards to being able to keep the emotions in check. Similarly with the players, if that's the case. I think it's interesting, he talks about the balance of the game, and he has to be, careful about the balance. If you look at Leicester, they haven't scored the first goal in 20 games, which is a big area of concern for him. And so obviously when you have to go out and win a game of football, and scoring the first goal is vital when you're at home in particular. So that balance there in itself is a little bit, you corner that off on its own. You have to dissect that and try and concentrate on that alone. How do we score the first goal? Never mind trying to keep a clean sheet, which was the first clean sheet in 22 games. So it's a massive gamble for Dean Smith, no matter what way he plays today, but he sees it that way, and we've all got to get behind him.
You agree with it?
Yeah, I do agree with it, and Dean was saying himself there, about he got criticised setting up to not go and win the game. I don't think any team ever does it. You don't go into a match and say, "Well, oh, by the way, today, lads, we just defend. We're not going to try and score a goal." It just doesn't happen. But they've got to get the tactics right today, and also they've got to be wary of this West Ham team, because they are a very, very good counter-attacking team. So the last thing Leicester want to do, as I say, just go gung-ho, first 15 minutes, give the ball away, West Ham counter-attack, you're a goal down, that then goes around the goodness. So the players have got to manage this game, and the manager as well. But as a manager, Dan, there's only so much you can do. Obviously the manager takes the credit, he takes the blame, but there's only so much you can do, and you can give all them instructions, you can work on it all week, all day long, and once that kick-off comes at 4:30 today, it's down to the players. The players have got to go out and perform. Yeah,
that's a good point Tony makes. I'm sure Dean Smith, along with the rest of his staff, have been mulling over all week how they're going to play against West Ham. They'll watch umpteen videos of West Ham hitting teams on the counter. Antonio, we know, is an absolute bull when he gets going. If he's on form today, he will cause any kind of centre-half problem. So the two lads at the back have to be really up for it today. And as Tony rightly says, you make a decision as a manager. The players buy into that decision. They go out. Now can they carry it out? To carry that message out on the pitch. And that's where you're flipping a coin sometimes and hoping for the best.
It could be a memorable season for today's visitors, West Ham, who've got a European final coming up in just over a week, which I know Tony's just a little bit excited for. Let's hear from their manager now, David Moyes, as well as Phil Parry from BBC Radio London.
It's been a mixed season at the London Stadium for David Moyes and his West Ham side. Hitting the 40-point mark last week against Leeds came later than many would have predicted at the start of the season. A fantastic campaign in Europe, though, culminating in a Europa Conference League final, means these supporters have had something to cheer about.
I don't really see it that way. I take every game one at a time. That's all we can ever do. We see a chance to get another league place higher up. And we're all well aware of the value of that as well in the Premier League. But I think that if you give me this position a few weeks ago, I'd have snapped your hand off, because it's being in a position where we don't go into the last day with any real problems, and more importantly, we've been to it as well, knowing that we've got a cup final in a week or so's time.
The Hammers have a number of individuals who have impressed throughout the season, namely their captain Declan Rice. In attack, Mikel Antonio, Said Benrahma and Jared Bowen have all reached double figures, but with that final coming up, rested legs may be needed.
Well, the final is another week and a half beyond this, so it's on the 7th of June, so it's not as if, in one respect, players are going to suddenly have to go from playing this on a Sunday and then preparing to fly out to Prague for a midweek final. So from that point of view, I don't think there's any danger. There is, of course, the fact that some of the key players this year have played a lot of football. Jared Bowen, for example, has hardly missed a game in the Premier League. In Europe, he did use his squad a little bit more, certainly in the early stages. As we've got to the the denouement of the competition, he's certainly used his big players a little bit more. So I think it will be a balance between players not wanting to drop off too much from their game time and their game fitness, and maybe making sure that you can just take some players out of the fray. So he went pretty strong in the last game against Leeds last Sunday, and I would imagine that David Moyes understands the integrity of the competition, so he will pick. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a very similar team to the one that he picked against Leeds United in that respect.
Thanks to Phil Parry there from BBC Radio London. West Ham team-wise have gone pretty similar to the team that played against Leeds a week ago. Tony, are you surprised with that final coming up? There are a couple of changes in there.
Not surprised at all, Dan. I mean, from a West Ham point of view, their final is not for another 10 days.
Yeah.
So if you don't play your so-called best players today, or the bulk of the best players, then some of them would have gone into a European final having not played a game for 2.5 weeks. It's too long. It sounds weird, but you can lose a little bit of sharpness if you haven't played for 2.5 weeks. So Antonio didn't play last week, so no surprise he's playing. Very unpredictable player, but he's a real handful if he's on his game. The two that were outstanding last week are number 11 Paqueta and 41 Declan Rice. Obviously everyone knows about Declan Rice, but Paqueta's just starting to settle into English football. This is a very dangerous West Ham team from Leicester's point of view, Dan. That's what I'm saying. If you know what they'll do, they'll drop off, they'll defend deep, and they'll say to Leicester, "Come on, break us down." And then if Leicester give the ball away cheaply, then they've got the power and the pace to hit them on a counter-attack.
And that man there has a link to Everton, obviously, as well, doesn't he?
Of course he does. Yeah, I think he's still got his family home up in the northwest, and was at Everton for 11 years. And I'm pretty certain he'll be in the dressing room saying to his lads, "Come on, we've got to do Everton a favour here today." So you know what's coming from David Moyes. But he's had a really difficult season, Moyesy, because he's a great guy, real football person, and got a lot of stick, and was very, very close to getting the sack on sort of 2 or 3 occasions this year. But the club stuck with him, and I think of the bottom teams, it was only Steve Cooper and David Moyes. All the bottom half teams have changed managers, Leicester included, obviously. And you know, sometimes I think it just goes to show if you stick with a manager, you can get out of the mess and you can progress.
You know, if you look at West Ham's recent form, they've won 4 out of their last 5 in all competitions. So going into this game, you've got players in good form, right? Scoring goals, good form. Why would you want to rest them with 10 days in between games? You know, because they will want to play. That's the way I would look at it. Why you rest me before a final 10 days away? I'm in good form. I want to play. If Tony Curry's, you know, the manager's asking, "Do you want to play today?" Yeah, I'm in good form, Gaffer. I'm scoring goals. Why would I want to sit on the bench?
And we just saw the 5 results there. The one defeat was against Brentford, where they made 8 changes.
Right,
and it was dreadful that day, absolutely dreadful. So I mean, West Ham probably in the best form they've been all season.
Which is not great timing for Leicester, but it has to be in the players' minds a little bit, knowing that final's coming up. They won't want to get injured today.
Yeah, I think maybe if there's what you would call, not I ever done them tags, as you know, but a 50-50 tackle, you know, does it go through your mind a little bit? The players will be aware of it, but I think as a footballer, you've got to play 100%. I think you've got more chance of getting injured if you go into a tackle 90% rather than 100%. So I think the West Ham players need to be professional, go about their game, and you can't worry about injury. If you played a game of football worrying about getting injured, you'd never play a game, and you would invariably get injured anyway.
Speaking of professional, we've got Matt Elliott in the press box for us. He's on co-commentary for us today. You were here nice and early today, Matt, weren't you? How is it out there? Are the nerves hitting you? Are they hitting the fans, do you think, yet?
I note a hint of sarcasm there.
No, never.
I've been in and around the stadium for quite a period of time. Much of it, I have to admit, was spent in the canteen area. But yeah, I'll tell you what, turning up in like the car park initially outside the stadium, loads of people around. In that sense, it's got the end of season feel about it. Last game of the season, everyone's determined to be a part of it. But it's also, I was going to say surprisingly, but maybe not to a lot of people, it was quite subdued. It was quite sombre almost, and you know, quite quiet really. And then also, that was also the case in the press room. Went in there, it wasn't so quiet once I started eating and crashing and banging. But And then, even here into the stands, the atmosphere is obviously, as it always does, slowly building up. But it's quite reserved, and I think that's sort of apprehension, a little touch of despondency maybe, and also nervousness, about what is about to unfold. But I don't know, it's such a sort of fragile situation, is it? At the moment on the pitch I can see David Moyes and Dean Smith actually having face-to-face, having a little heart-to-heart, discussing whatever it is they may be. But a hive of activity in and around the tunnel area. But other than that, like I say, it's quite quiet. Hopefully the sort of calm before the perfect storm, shall we say. But time will tell on that one.
Matt, it's Jerry here. How are your nerves holding up? How are you feeling this afternoon before the kick-off?
I'm all right, mate. I might be a bit different if I was playing. I was more nervous yesterday when we played in that charity game. To be honest, in the build-up to that, I was panicking. But I suppose I'm okay. As a part of the media and an observer, I still get edgy, etc. There's a big atmosphere here. A few of the old players are in and around the touchlines. Marcin Vasilevsky down there, Wes Morgan, and numerous other people. A lot of focus on this game, isn't there? And of course, I'm a bit pensive and concerned about what's going to happen. But it's the people out there on the pitch that matter, Tags, isn't it? There's the players. And like yesterday with me and you in that charity game, once that whistle goes, the adrenaline kicks in, and you haven't got too many fears, have you? So I think the players will be desperate to get the show underway.
How did it go yesterday, Matt?
Exemplary is a word that comes to mind. Me and Gerald.
Clean sheet?
When we were on the field of play, yes, which wasn't very long. I think Gerald 18 minutes, myself 25. Clean sheet, couple of assists.
Plenty of talking.
Loads of talking. Loads of rugby tackles and loads of bribing the assistant referee, who I happened to coach a few years ago and knew, which was handy.
Right, let's get a quick recap then of today's team news. Thank you very much to Matt. We'll hear from you, of course, on co-commentary duty today. Hopefully we'll be hearing your voice over famous goals that will go down in Leicester history today. Daniel Everson is in goal. Luke Thomas, Wout Fast, Johnny Evans and Timothy Castagna across the back four. Bubis Damare, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Yuri Tielemans in midfield, with Barnes and Maddison either side of Kelechi Iheanacho. And from a West Ham United point of view, Fabianski in goal, Cresswell, Kehrer, Aguerd and Soufal across the back four, with Rice and Downs holding. And then you've got Benrahma, Paqueta, Fornals all behind Mikel Antonio. Let's take a little quick trip down memory lane for a certain Tony Cottee, who's in the studio with us today. Here's a couple of goals against your former club. Go fresh faced Tony
Young
Cottee
looking.
there.
Where's the years go?
Those were the days, weren't they?
Was that 25 years ago? Frightening, Dan, absolutely frightening. Great memories, It's lovely to score the 2 goals for Leicester, but we lost 4-3.
That's why you weren't celebrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay, we've got about 5 minutes. It's just such a massive day, Jerry, isn't it? There's no over-egging that. There's no over-exaggerating just how huge today could be.
Yeah, I think it's important, though, that again, we spoke about taking the pressure away from the players on an occasion like today. Play the game, not the occasion. Obviously, the players have had lots of time to sit at home and think about, the permutations. If things go well here, not so well elsewhere, and the reverse of that. So when you walk into the ground and your head's spinning already in the build-up of in the build-up to the game today, then I think it's important for, again, the management and the coaching staff just to, bring a bit of calmness, bring a bit of reality, and sort of block all that outside noise, away from inside that dressing room. I think that's really important.
It was interesting, Matt, talking about sort of a bit of a sombre atmosphere outside the ground. I think the main reason for that, Dan, is because it's not in Leicester's hands. That is the reason, because the fans are thinking even if we win today, it still might not be enough. But what I would say is when those Leicester fans get inside the stadium, they will make a huge noise. They've got to get behind the players, and they will do. They're fantastic fans. They get behind the players will pick up from that. Everyone's in it together, and just got to go out and try and get the result, and then worry about everything else elsewhere.
On the screen just a moment ago while you were talking, Jerry, Birch was giving the players a rallying cry. They've gone in for their final conversations, obviously before kick-off. He's someone that can rally the troops.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about Birch a bit earlier in the canteen, where he's not been around the training ground as much as usual, for health reasons and whatnot. And the players obviously love, respect, they adore Birch being around because of his old school ways, shall we say, his sense of humour, and leave it there. But he's just a massive tonic for all the players. So, and he's doing what he does best, getting into the players, having a bit of banter with them, and obviously encouraging them.
Because it's clearly what they needed. They need as much motivation and encouragement today as they can, and their task is simple: win the game. You can't affect what's happening at Goodison Park. Make sure you win today.
Yeah, absolutely. Go out and win the game. Forget everything else. Concentrate. Go and win the game. Listen to Birch. Channel all that energy into the right direction. Make sure you're fully ready, fully prepared for everything. And even if you're on the subs bench, be ready to go on. Yeah. Don't be sitting there with no top on and all that rubbish. It drives me mad. Be ready to go. All in it together. Go and get a result. Massive, massive game for the football club.
Options on the bench as well for both scenarios. We spoke about obviously potentially going to a back three should they be ahead, but there's attacking options there as well should Leicester need to go and get a winner late on.
Yeah, you've got Vardy, you've got Daka. You can tweak the system. You can go to the back three if need be. You can put 5 at the back, whatever you want to do. If you're winning 2-0,
10 at the back.
Yeah, if you want to protect a lead or whatever, you can do whatever you want, Dan. But they have got good options on the bench, Leicester, which is going to be important today. And it's squad, as I say, everyone's together.
Yeah, listen, it's important, as we said. Leicester need to win the game. And first and foremost, that starts with a performance. Okay, everybody's accustomed to playing this way. They've got Jenny Evans in the team who will give that common influence, that experience at the back. So it's set up. Just go out and play your best game. Just be at your best for today. That's all you can ask for. We spoke about the permutations. Leicester can't decide what goes on in the other 2 games. All they can do is decide what happens here today, and at the least give the crowd something to go home happy about.
Is it possible to be 2 up for a game?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, that's what I say. Everyone, Dean Smith, and you've got John Terry in the dressing room. Played in all those massive games. You just calm everyone down. When they come in, because your adrenaline's starting to pump around the body. Sit them down, calm them down a little bit, get them focused, then go out and perform and do yourself proud individually, as a team, and most importantly for the fans. Do yourself proud. Go out and give it your all. Don't leave anything in the dressing room. Just give it a full charge, and if ultimately it's not enough, then you can reflect on the previous 37 games, which is where the damage was done. Make sure you don't leave anything in the dressing room today.
Yeah, I think what that's a good point you mentioned there. Can you be 2 up for a game? First and foremost, as an individual, my job is to do my defensive job, not to pick the ball up on the edge of my box and get a rush of blood to the head and start charging forward 20, 30, 40 yards, trying to interweave past players and then ping a ball into Tony Cotty's feet inside the box. So
you could do that though, couldn't you?
Well,
not your job, but you could do it
occasionally.
That's me being 2 up for a game.
Yeah.
So do what you're good at.
Yeah.
Do what you're put in the team to do, and then there's key moments in a game that hopefully come your way, i.e. a Tony Cotty, i.e. an Iheanacho, and that's where it's your time to shine. And you have 2 or 3 seconds to shine in that moment. That's where you can elaborate slightly.
Yeah, it's a big day for the Foxes, of course, this afternoon. We're 10 minutes now away from kick-off in the final game of the season. The task is simple for Leicester: just win this game. Hopefully results go our way elsewhere, but we can just concentrate on this game, of course. We've got full commentary coming up with Niall McCorn and Matt Elliott. We'll be back with you at half-time and then again at full-time, where hopefully we'll be bringing you good news.
Because memories never fade, no matter how long. We'll still remember the moments of excitement and the impressions of Thailand. Amazing Thailand, now even more amazing.
Lamiet is the belief that perfection lies within the details, where the finest ingredients deserve the finest craftsmanship. In every pursuit of perfection, there is passion and perseverance, where attention to detail inspires a masterpiece that's balanced and in harmony. This is the Lamiet philosophy, brewed into every drop of Chang beer. This is the taste of Thai perfection. Chang beer. We brew friendship.
There isn't a club in the country quite like Leicester City. Who else could win the Premier League, the FA Cup, play in the Champions League knockout stages, reach a European semi-final and then be at risk of dropping out of the top flight entirely? The last 7 years have been a journey that no Foxes fan will ever forget. But let's face it, this has been a season to forget. After 37 games, we are here on the final day, knowing that City must win to give themselves the best chance of survival. If Everton beat Bournemouth, Leicester are down. But if the Foxes beat West Ham and Everton fail to win at Goodison Park, then it will be Premier League football at King Power Stadium next season. No doubt eyes will be elsewhere today, but on the pitch the focus must be unwavering. Go out there and beat West Ham. Alongside me on what's set to be an historic afternoon, no matter which way it goes, former Leicester City defender Matt Elliott. We've seen a lot in the last 7 years, Matt. What might we see today?
Yeah, it's in my association with the club, harking back to 25 years or so ago, 26 years in fact, it's very rarely been dull, very rarely been boring, and this season's been similar to others in as much as it's entertainment value, but certainly at the bottom end of the table, the wrong end of the table. But there's been a lot of controversy and speculation and talk about Leicester, as there often has been through the years. And after what they achieved, it's almost ironic where they find themselves now, really after winning the Premier League itself so astonishingly, 2016, 7 years later, in this predicament, this finely balanced situation. Can they, as they normally have done in recent times, come up with the goods when it was really needed? It's going to be a big ask though, I'm afraid, isn't it? That's for sure. The challenge is mighty ahead of them.
Well, it is a sea of blue, as you'd expect here at King Power Stadium. The supporters will be behind this team, but there will be nerves, there will be apprehension, understandably so. People will have radios out, they'll be on their phones checking the scores at Ellen Road, at Goodison Park. But the key, from the player's perspective, is do your job, and that job is to win.
Yeah, of course, it's been mentioned umpteen times in the build-up this week, and also today, but whilst that's true, yes it is, there's a sort of apprehension about what might go on elsewhere, isn't there? But there's no point worrying about that. I think Leicester fans will probably be hoping for a certain amount of anxiety, because that means they're in the hunt. And rather than the worst scenario is, early shouts from Goodison Park and Everton go 2-0 up.
But by the same token, early goal here, Matt, and the nerves will creep in at Goodison Park as the news filters through.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think the supporters here want some tension, want some anxiety, because it means they're in with a shout. If it's all a bit of a damp squib, Everton go 2-0 up, and regardless of what goes on here, but I don't know. Let's wait to see. It's about to unfold.
Football can give you dreams, but it can also give you nightmares. The words of Claudio Ranieri ahead of today's game. But what will be the Foxes' fate? What will be the next chapter of this club's remarkable story? Winning the Premier League title, the FA Cup, the Community Shield, a Champions League quarter-final, 2 fifth-place finishes and a Conference League semi-final. The last 7 years have been some ride. This is a football club like no other. This is Leicester City. After 37 games, it comes down to this. The Foxes are slaves to events at Goodison Park, but one thing doesn't change. If they want to stay up, they have to win today. But if anyone can do it, Leicester City can. Today will be etched into Foxes folklore for better or for worse. History will be made this afternoon. Well, Dean Smith went to St James's Park with a back five, enough for a point, which gives Leicester a fighting chance of survival. But it's a back four today, as Castagna, Evans, Fass and Thomas play in front of Everson in goal. Dewsbury Hall is back in the side in the middle of the pitch. In Leicester's 8 Premier League wins this season, Dewsbury Hall has started 7 of them. It's a return to the 11 also for Harvey Barnes, Leicester's top scorer, whilst Maddison, the Foxes' most productive outlet, also returns from the start. Iheanacho is the man up front today, but Jamie Vardy is on the bench. Is there another moment of magic to come from a man who quite simply has enchanted this place over the last decade or so? Here's your Leicester side in full. It's Everson in goal, Castagna, Evans, Fass and Thomas the defence. A midfield three of Tielemans, Soumare and Dewsbury Hall. Maddison, Iheanacho and Barnes lead the line. Your subs are Alex Smithies, Harry Souttar, Daniel Amate, Ricardo, Papi Mendy, Dennis Pratt, Tete and Jamie Vardy. For West Ham, they have a European final, but that's not for another 10 days. And as such, David Moyes feels he can still pick a strong side to come here on the final day at King Power Stadium. There are, though, 6 alterations from the 3-1 win over Leeds. That did Leicester a favour. They certainly won't roll over this afternoon. In come Cresswell, Keira, Aguerd, Downs, Benrahma and Antonio. Out are Emerson, Ogbonna, Zuma, Souček, Bowen and Danny Ings. Well, for one final time at King Power Stadium in 2022-23, when you're smiling rings around King Power. But who will be smiling come full time? Will it be the Foxes, having secured Premier League status for another season? We will wait and find out. Dean Smith stands and watches. A big day, not just for these Leicester fans, but also for him perhaps, in terms of the future at the football club. But the only immediate future that matters is the next 90 minutes. Just listen to that noise. Anticipation, excitement, but also nervousness and apprehension. As referee Simon